Welcome to Glutened, the podcast where we amplify the voices of those living with celiac disease and allergies or intolerances. Each episode offers a unique perspective and invaluable insight into life with celiac disease. I'm your host, Maisa, and together let's share stories, foster understanding, and build a supportive community for everyone. Hi, Kirsty. It's lovely to have you on this podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. Right, Kirsty, can you share your experience of discovering Isla had celiac disease, please?
Yes, so it's a bit of a long story, so I'll try and keep it short and simple. So
Take your time.
basically, Isla was a really, really easy baby. Like she was the most chilled out, calm kid ever. And then when she was about 6 months old, which
Mm-hmm.
matches up with when we weaned her, she suddenly stopped being a good sleeper. She was very, very fussy with food. Like we would give her food and she would have a few bites, but then she wouldn't eat very much and she'd be starving. So she would have loads of milk and stuff. And then, that kind of continued for a while. And then literally the day she turned one, we went
Mm-hmm.
out for tea. We went to a nice pizza restaurant. She had loads of pizza. We were like, oh, maybe she's turned one. This is the beginning of things. She can eat properly now.
Yeah.
Uh, and that night she spent the entire night being sick. And we
Oh,
thought, okay, she's just eaten a lot. This happens. That was the first night of almost a year and a half of her
okay.
being sick every single night, more than once a night. And we tried various things during that time. The thing that makes me laugh now, but the time was awful. Our health visitor, which comes to see you and stuff, we spoke to her, and she said to me, "Oh, maybe she's doing it for attention." And I was like, it was at the time 15 months old. I was like, I don't think that's possible, but okay. Well, she ended up in hospital a couple of times and sick kids because she would just cough and cough and cough and be sick. And then eventually, I spoke to someone at work who suggested to me using something called a cranial osteopath, I think they were called.
No, I have never heard of
Cranial osteopath. Yeah, I think that was what it was called. And they basically did some massages and stuff on her, which seemed to make her sleep slightly better for a few days afterwards
it. Okay.
and then it get really bad again. So that was obviously, we've researched now, kind of easing her pain a tiny bit enough that she could sleep.
Yeah.
And then, time went on. She got prescribed some anti-sickness medication because they thought she had weak stomach muscles and that was causing her to be sick, all sorts of stuff. Eventually, though, it started coming out both ends. So she would be sick, but also have a bit of a
Okay.
dodgy tummy, which then meant she couldn't go to nursery because nurseries have absolutely, great rules in place where if the child has an upset stomach, they can't go in because it could be infectious.
Yeah.
She then started being off nursery as much as she was in, and her nursery teacher spoke to us, and they agreed with us that it just wasn't sustainable. Her being in for a day, off for two, in for a day, off for two. So eventually, I said to them, we're going to go to the doctors again for like the fifth or sixth time, and they said, don't go until you've kept a food diary because from their experience, most doctors, if you go in with a food diary, they can eliminate that it's not an allergy or not,
Yeah.
something else. So we went in with the food diary, and something about the doctor we saw that time, we'd never seen her before. I don't know if she just saw the panic, the exhaustion on my face, or she saw Isla, and Isla at the time was very, very thin. She had no energy. She was just really not a very well kid. It's something about her. She said, let's do blood tests to eliminate a
Okay.
bunch of things. And she listed off 7 or 8 things. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Blah. That was December 2021.
Okay.
She had her age 3 vaccinations in the January. So we put off the blood tests until after that because we were like, we need her to get these jags. So I booked them for the end of January 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blood test came back middle of February, and they said, unless something has gone wrong at the lab, she has celiac disease. And I was like, she's got what? um, because I'd heard of it. My sister's best friend has celiac disease, but all I knew about it was like she couldn't eat gluten. But I'd never catered for her. I'd never, you
Yeah.
know, hung out with her really socially. So all I knew was she can't have gluten. And I knew my mum used to buy, special cakes or something if she was coming round, but nothing really more. So I phoned my husband in panic, told him, he was like, I don't know what that is either. So the two of us are having a bit of a wobble.
Yeah.
So that was mid-February. She had her second blood test and it got confirmed in the middle of March. And
Okay.
yeah, that's kind of her story. So it took us from the first day she was sick, it was 2.5 years. from the first day she kind of started being not quite herself. So about 6 months old, it was 3 years of
Wow. Okay.
illness.
And did they have to do a biopsy or just blood
No,
test?
no, I'm not sure why she didn't need a biopsy, if it's because she was so young or her levels were so high. I don't know which one, but luckily we didn't need that because she's been poked and prodded so much
Yeah.
over her whole life, she's terrified of the
Yeah.
doctors.
That's
So
very, very good that she didn't have to go through that experience.
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
So she
I
did.
I've done it without anesthesia, so
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's not good.
no.
So the
Um,
blood tests are all she's needed.
maybe the numbers were high, that's why.
Yes, they were
Yeah.
extremely high, her
In
numbers.
some cases, okay. And how is she feeling now? How long did it take you to adapt? How
So,
did you feel when you read more about celiac disease and what you need to change? And
do you know, it was the stupidest things that we focused on at the beginning because, someone saying you can't eat gluten. I was like, all right, cool, we'll just get gluten free, no biggie. But
yeah,
what really, the one thing I remember so clearly, me and my husband obsessed over that first night was
mm,
finding a Chinese takeaway. And it wasn't even that we ate Chinese takeaways that often or that
yeah,
it was a pivotal part of our lives, but I think it was just something tangible that we could focus on while
yeah,
we're processing everything. So we found a Chinese, we were fine. We've been twice. That really wasn't that important. But at first, I cried at first. I was planning to go to my parents that day anyway, and I had a little cry to my dad and my mom. I was just like, oh. And then the awkward thing is you have to continue eating gluten
yeah.
between your blood tests.
Hmm.
And that as a parent, I
Hmm.
mean, it's hard for anyone, but as a parent, it's really difficult because I knew I was feeding my child food that made her sick. And
Yeah.
that's horrible. So what we actually did was we spoke to nursery and we said to them, please keep feeding her gluten, but at home, to give ourselves a month to sort of get used to it, make mistakes, accidentally gluten her a few
Yeah.
times. We went gluten free at home because she was still having 4 days a week, three
Yeah.
meals,
Yeah.
gluten, and
Hmm.
that was enough.
Yeah.
We went gluten free at home. We made some mistakes. We tried some not so good things, some good things. It was a right testing period. So by the time we got that final blood testing, yes, definitely celiac, we just went,
Hmm.
right, no more gluten for her.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit of a journey. She's now 2 years in. It's 2 years actually. Last week is 2 years since her final blood tests. So
Okay.
it's 2 years in, and she is a different kid. Very quickly, we noticed she had energy. I think that was the biggest
Hmm.
thing we saw. And it was actually the symptom we hadn't realized was a symptom. We just thought she was tired because she didn't sleep,
Yeah.
which she was. But suddenly she had like excitement for life. We would say, hey, Isla, shall we go to something? And she'd be ready before we were.
Yeah.
And dancing around the house again, and just all these things that she did sometimes before, but
Mm.
she was doing it all the time. And she just had so much energy, so much going for her. She caught naps. She was still napping at 3.5 at home.
Yeah.
She caught any need for naps. She was eating well and properly and
Yeah.
gained. She's grown like 25 centimeters in 2 years, which is
That's
huge.
amazing.
And she's put on weight, and you hold, if you're cuddling her, there's something to her now. She's
Yeah.
not a little skinny thing. So she's like a different kid. Honestly, the change we saw in the first 6 months, I think, was the biggest. Just that
Yeah.
massive change in her being who she really was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as well, it takes it out of us, like as a celiac, you just feel
Mhm.
exhausted. Like I completely understand. And she was
Oh,
probably malnourished. That's why she
yeah.
didn't
Do you
have the
know?
energy.
I was looking at photos the other day, and you could see her ribs, but then she had this massive bloated tummy. And at the time, we just thought that was what kids look like. She's our only child.
Yeah.
Just thought she's just got a weird build. Okay,
Yeah.
but looking back now, there's so many things that indicated it was celiac.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's thriving now. I think that's the best way to describe her. She's at school. She can easily do like an hour of ballet and then an hour's dog walk and then still be up playing, dancing to Strictly all night. Like yeah,
That's amazing. That's
it,
really good to hear.
it's really nice to hear, really positive for us.
And what about people around you? What about her granddad, her grandma? Are they understanding or her friends in school?
Really, really good actually.
Okay.
I knew my parents would be fine because you know, we knew at least one person who had celiac.
Yeah.
But actually, I was very fortunate. She has 6 grandparents.
Okay.
And all 6 of them have really taken to it. You
That's
know,
nice.
we've got some who are happier just buying from the free from aisles
Yeah.
and giving her stuff that's prepackaged, gluten
Mhm.
free. I think that's great because then they're confident and happy and they feel they can, you know, give her
Contribute.
stuff and she's going to be healthy and happy. And I think that's brilliant. My mum, on the other hand, she loves home cooking, home baking. She
Mhm.
had all of the family round just after Christmas, and she made everything from scratch because that's how she feels confident and
Yeah.
comfortable for her. So she's been great actually. And actually, my granddad, Isla's great granddad,
Yeah.
he's even kind of gets it as well, which is amazing. He's 94 and you know, he knows she can't eat gluten. He just says to us, "Can you bring food for
Yeah.
her?" Which is
Easier.
fine and happy. But
Yeah.
even he's tried really hard to understand what it is. So we've had really supportive family actually. Everyone's been really on the ball. And her friends, so her core nursery friends, it was great for me because so it was really easy when she was
Yeah.
at nursery to just be like, oh, guess what? We know why she was being sick all the time. Let's make her better.
Yeah.
I was very nervous when she started school. So she just started in September. In Scotland, you go to school when you're 5. So she
Okay.
started in September there. And I was terrified. A new school. I didn't know her teacher. And they hadn't known her when she was unwell. So I
Yeah.
didn't know if they would have the same kind of concern for it.
Hmm.
It's honestly been great. I went in before she started and they gave us a chat about the menu, how they would adapt, keep her safe. Her group of friends that she has made have been amazing. They were going home and telling their parents, oh, there's a new girl, Isla, she can't eat gluten, before there was even a single birthday party. So
Yeah.
they're all really aware of it, on the ball. You know, there was one mum who texted me on her son's birthday and said, I sent cakes in with him. Don't worry, they're gluten free. And I just think that is just so kind. And I
Hmm.
think that's what we've been really taken with is how, yeah, people maybe worry if they're catering for her. They sometimes say, we can't do it. Could you bring stuff? And we'll
Yeah.
always do things for her.
Yeah.
The fact they even think to ask,
Yeah.
I think is incredible. It
That's
just
really good.
isn't it? Yeah.
It's very thoughtful as well.
Yeah, it's really nice. So her school have been brilliant and her little group of friends are all they're so on the ball with it as well. Like
Yeah.
they'll say to her, we were out at a soft plane out for lunch, and one of the kids turned to me and she went, is that gluten free for Isla? I was like, yeah, I've got this, don't worry.
That's really good.
So that's
So
really cute.
does Ayla feel that she's restricted or that she's left out in some of the situations, like social settings, or she's, yeah?
Sometimes,
Mm.
yeah, she knows she's different. She knows it's she can't have the same as other people. And normally she's fine,
Yeah.
but you know, she's 5. She
Yeah.
has big feels about a lot of things.
Hmm.
Uh, so sometimes she will just come home and she'll say, it's not fair. Why
Yeah.
can't I have that? And
Mm.
you know, we could try and say to her nice things like, oh, it's you're special, you're this, you're that. But actually, I'm honest with her. I'm just like, yeah, it is unfair. It
Yeah.
is really rubbish
Yeah.
sometimes because I think that will help her cope with it and help her show that we understand. We'll never know what it feels like, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully neither of us will end up with celiac.
Yeah.
Um, but we can understand her and say, yeah, it is really, really rubbish. But I think because she was diagnosed so young,
Hmm.
hopefully that will mean as she grows older, you know, she doesn't know what a fresh baguette tastes like or a
Yeah.
donut or any of
Yeah.
those things. So she's gonna eat them. I know she will. You know, she'll be 18, 16, whatever. She'll go out with her friends, she'll go to McDonald's, she'll eat a Big Mac. And I
Yeah.
think as long as she knows that we've made her a promise, we'll never shout at her for glutening
Yeah.
herself. We'll always come, pick her up, take her home, look after her. And I think that's really important as well. But no, she senses it's unfair, but she also knows it makes her feel well. And she
Unwell.
knows if she eats gluten, because there was one time she was bugging us about something saying, I really want to have it. And we were like, okay, you have that. Then tomorrow we're going to go swimming. You won't be swimming. And then on Sunday we're going to do this, but you won't be doing that. And then she kind of made the decision herself and said, oh, actually, I don't want to have that anymore.
Yeah.
So she does get it. It's unfair. It sucks. Like it
Yeah.
really does. You're
Yeah.
little and you can't have the Barbie birthday cake. But we do our best to kind of compensate. But I do think as her parent, one of the best things her dad and I can do is actually teach her a little bit of resilience about
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
but also teach her that, you know what, not everyone's going to understand, not everyone's going to make you your own special food. Sometimes you're going to have to sit and eat a bag of plain crisps
Yeah.
when everyone else is having Monster Munch. Do you know, something silly like that that she gets upset about.
Yeah.
We'll do everything we can to make her feel included,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't do everything in the
No,
world.
that's right.
It's a hard balance.
Yeah, it is. And some things are not in our control, so or your control. So you do your best, as you said, but you can't
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
control everything. And have you got a completely gluten-free household, or you still have a little bit of gluten in the house?
We still have gluten, mostly for cost reasons.
Yes.
You know, the amount of toast that our dad goes through, we'd be bankrupt if we ate gluten free.
Sorry, I'll add a question to that. Do
Of
you get
course,
bread on prescription or
yes.
yeah, okay.
So we're really lucky. We get bread, cereal, crackers, pizza bases on prescription.
Hmm?
Um, the problem is 5-year-olds are really fussy.
Yeah,
They don't like most of the stuff on prescription, so we
yeah,
tend to use it for pizza bases and crackers.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, we eat gluten. Say we're having quiche or something,
yeah,
we'll buy a gluten one, get her a gluten-free one,
yeah,
and then cook them. We cook them on separate trays. Hers is always on the top of the oven. You know, we keep it as separate as possible.
yeah,
But again, partly for cost, but again, partly teaching her a little bit of that, you know, not everyone's going to make their whole lives gluten free for her. If we can do it in a safely controlled way, then we will.
yeah,
But things like pasta, we only eat gluten free pasta in
yeah.
our house.
Hmm.
Anything that's got a risk of cross contamination,
Yeah,
we eat gluten free.
yeah.
We have separate trays and everything, separate
Mhm.
cupboards for her food, so there's no risk of anything. I won't have gluten flour in the house because
No,
I'm how can you ever clean that?
yeah,
Um, all our baking stuff is kept completely gluten free, all that. So it's the only things we eat that's gluten is like pre-packaged stuff that
yeah.
we can take out of the packet, put on a tray, put in the oven.
Mhm.
Anything that's cooked is gluten free.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And she's not tempted to try any of your things? That's good. She knows.
She knows. And the thing is, again, we try and get her an equivalent. So, you know, we have pizza, she has pizza. Hers
Yeah.
is just a different one. But do you know what? She probably wouldn't want
No.
spicy chicken pizza or something like that. She just wants a plain cheese, so she can have that.
Yeah, fair enough. Right. Can you talk a little bit about misconceptions that you've encountered with celiac disease or the gluten-free diet? Do people think that you're being ridiculous or?
Um, so our immediate friends and family have been great
Yeah,
about Steve. We have had the comments of, oh, it's just a little bit. And I'm like, she can't just have a little bit of gluten, or, you know, it's usually accidental things. You know, someone will be eating a pudding and I will say, oh, can I have your ice cream? And,
yeah,
you know, people who don't live with it every day will say, yeah, sure. And I'm like, no, 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 it's been on the same plate. So she can't have that.
yeah.
And then we always feel like apologizing for
Hmm.
that thing. We're really sorry because we know people are trying to be kind, they're trying to share, they're trying to be really nice to her.
Yeah.
So we always then are like, we're really sorry. And everyone understands so far.
Hmm.
I do sometimes feel that people think we put it on her and that we're gluten free by choice and we're forcing that on our child.
Yeah.
So we do always make sure when we're ordering for her or if we're going out, because we eat out quite a lot,
Yeah.
that we say gluten-free celiac for our daughter,
Yeah.
just so you know, so they don't judge me and think I'm just a mum who doesn't eat bread.
Yeah.
You know, and so they understand the reason behind her choice, or it's not even her choice, behind
Yeah.
why we're doing
Yeah. Why
it.
she's eating gluten-free.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the biggest one is I think people think we forced her to do this,
Yeah.
not it's a health condition and it's vital.
Yeah. What was when you first found out about Isla being celiac, what was the biggest thing that was helpful for you to understand about the condition and how do you have something, I don't know, like a community that you've joined or
The Instagram, I know I hate the fact that Instagram has been my biggest thing because I was actually, when we found out I had given up social media for Lent that year,
okay,
on it too
interesting.
much.
Yeah.
And then the first thing we found out when she went gluten free was I don't even know how he found her. My husband came across Becky XL.
Okay.
I don't know if he'd Googled it or just looked up gluten-free recipes or what. And he said to me, "Oh my gosh, there's this incredible woman on Instagram. Give her a follow." So I followed her, and then I suddenly followed 100,000 different gluten-free
Mhm.
accounts. It was clogging up my Instagram.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not having this anymore. So I set up one as like a little family account. Originally, we were just going to follow people, but that lasted about a day before we thought, well, we can share experiences of being gluten-free parents to a gluten-free young, a child,
Yeah.
because she was only 3.5 at the time, which is apparently quite unusual. Apparently it takes like 13 years or something on average for people to get diagnosed. It's
I,
something like that. And
I
yeah,
got diagnosed when I was 33.
yeah, exactly. So it's hugely different. So we thought maybe we have a different view on things. So
Yeah.
yeah, we follow that account and we've shared stuff pretty regularly on that. Sometimes I'll go a few weeks without posting anything because we're eating pizzas and cakes. Not exciting. Um, but then sometimes we'll put stuff up. But yeah, I find the Instagram community has been really helpful, even just for questions. Like,
Yeah.
there's a brand of pizza on it and it says it's gluten free, but then it says may contain wheat.
Yeah.
And we stood looking at that in Tesco and we were like, can we feed her this?
Yeah.
So I just put that online and I was like, what do you think? And we got answers on both sides. But
Yeah.
that allowed us to then make a decision, like a reasoned decision based on what we looked up online. We went on Celiac UK's website,
Yeah.
is so useful, honestly. It's such a handy charity. But then we also took on what other people had said, just
Hmm.
for a little bit of guidance and made our own choices. But yeah, we found the Instagram community and also Celiac UK have been amazing. They've been so helpful. And,
Hmm.
even just with questions or stuff. And Isla did some fundraising last year. She ran a kilometre and raised like £750 for them. It was so cute. But even that, the community were so generous. People we've never met before sponsored her. And it's a really kind group of people
That's
who
lovely.
all kind of support each other, which is
Yeah, yeah.
really
The Instagram community is a big thing, to be honest with you. Yeah. Everybody's very kind to each other and they try to help as much as possible, which is
and there's no
amazing.
judgment as well.
No.
Like this, no one's kind of going, you gluten her, what did you do? Everyone's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, it's a
we could have
mistake.
done that. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a really helpful thing.
Yeah, that's really important as well to not judge each other. We're all trying. We're doing our best.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
the main thing. So yeah, no, that's been really, really useful. And then, we found local celiac groups online as well. We've not actually met anyone officially, but
Okay.
one of the best things we did was we were on holiday 5 months after Isla got diagnosed, and it was in Norway. We were doing a cruise in Norway, and
Nice.
we were at the top of this mountain thing, and Isla and I were in the little cafe, and she was getting like a chocolate muffin. It was the only gluten-free thing they had. And then we were waiting to go back down the mountain, and this guy comes over and he went, "I heard you asking for gluten-free. Are you gluten-free?" I was like, "Oh yeah, she's celiac." And he was like, "Me too." And then
Oh,
we were talking to him for ages, and then this other woman came over and she went, "I'm celiac as well." And there we ended up on this one bus trip of
yeah.
people, a cruise that had 5,000 people. There was four celiacs.
Oh,
But
wow.
even just that, one of the girls was about 15, and to Isla, that was like the greatest thing she could have seen was someone her granddad's age
Yeah.
who was celiac and had grown up and knew their
Yeah.
stuff. Someone who was a cool, trendy teenager that was wearing, clothes that
Yeah.
I would love to have that was celiac too. And I think for her that's really important. So,
Yeah.
even meeting random people, but I quite often show her a few of the accounts on
Yeah.
Instagram, like, oh, like this little girl's celiac like you, like just to give her a bit of a feeling she's not alone.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't want to be feel like she's being left out. And can you share any memorable moments or milestones in your journey of raising Isla with celiac disease?
The biggest one for me was when she got her blood test after 1 year.
Yeah.
And they sent me, we went in and they said, you're clearly doing the right things, but obviously the proof is in the results.
Yeah.
And every single level Isla had was normal.
Okay.
And she was very anemic when she got diagnosed. Her iron levels were normal. Everything had gone to plan. And honestly, I think I cried more then than when she got diagnosed because there was such a relief and it was just such a thing of saying we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That was probably a really big one.
Mhm.
Um, the other really big one was just when it sounds silly, but when she was leaving nursery, and the teachers there had been so good at helping us get her diagnosed and talking to her about it. And, when she was diagnosed, she spoke to them, they spoke to her, and kind of encouraged her to verbalize it. So seeing her finish nursery, in the picture, she's like the same height as her friends, and all that, it just meant so much to see that she'd had a really tricky few years. During her nursery years, there was COVID, there was this, there was sickness, blah blah. To see her come through that and do so healthy was just amazing.
That's amazing achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And do you know what? We do the kind of mental load. We read the stuff. We do thinking, but it's Isla who has to live with this every day. We can go out for tea, us two, and we think about it. And we never have that.
No, but
So,
you're showing her the way. That's it. She's
hopefully.
gonna learn from you. Yeah, I'm sure she will.
But it's her who deals with this every day, and that's why I think we're so proud of her, is that she's just taken it in her stride as much as she could.
Resilient, isn't she?
Yes, very.
Yeah. Right. Last question. What advice would you give to other parents whose children have been just diagnosed with celiac disease?
I would say take a deep breath, because your instinct is to straight away, that night, clean your covers, clear everything out, do everything crazy. That's a good thing you need to do, but you don't need to do that on day one. Take 24 hours to research, look on Celiac UK, browse the internet, and figure out what you need to do and come up with a list of the top few things. So for us, obviously, finding a Chinese takeaway was top for some reason. But for us, it was, let's find a breakfast she likes, because breakfast is such an important part of a day, and it sets you up for the rest of the day. So let's find something she likes to eat then. And then it was tell friends and family. But some of the smaller things we didn't worry about for maybe 2 weeks. That was maybe when we went out and we bought all new baking trays, because we went, oh wait, we've not done that yet.
Yeah.
But at least we knew what to put on the baking trays that she liked, because at that stage we were mostly gluten-free. Yes, it was still damaging her, and that's not good.
Yeah.
But you can't do everything in 24 hours.
No.
Give yourself 2 weeks leeway to breathe and figure it out. And the other thing is, don't worry if you make a mistake. It's the worst feeling in the world, but it will happen. And you will never forgive yourself, but it will happen, and just accept that and learn from it, I think, is the main one.
Yeah, we're only human at the end of the day, and especially as a parent, you're doing your best.
Yes, exactly. And she got gluten because she walked over and picked some food off someone else's plate. How are we ever going to stop that?
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
She was 3, and I was really angry at myself. And then I was like, well, how would I stop her doing it? I can't have eyes everywhere all the time.
No, exactly. You're right. Kirsty, thank you very much. That was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.